It's no secret that many of the characters on The Sopranos are not exactly at the top of their class. Characters like Georgie, AJ, and Paulie could have drowned in 3 inches of water.
What? Sun Tzu, the Chinese Prince Machiavelli. Tony turned me on to. Zhu. Sun Tzu, you fucking ass kid.
But of all the Ivy Leaguers on the show, the dumbest of them all has to be Little Carmine. Despite being the son of a boss, Little Carmine is not a respected guy. His accomplishments are mediocre.
Some of you know I've had 9 pictures under my subspecies. 4 in the South Beach Strumpet series alone, each with 30,000 plus DVDs in print.
His social awareness is hysterical.
Jesus Christ, Carmine, what the fuck? Why would you possibly bring that up?
And his defining characteristic is his constant malapropisms.
I'm reminded of Louis the whatever's finance minister. Does something. He's an old-fashioned guy, Pop, very allegorical. You're at the precipice, Tony, of an enormous crossroad. A pint of blood costs more than a gallon of gold. The point I'm trying to illustrate is that, of course, no one wants all-out conflict. But historically, historical changes have come out of war.
But is there more to this character than meets the eye? Something hidden we might have missed on first glance. Let's take a look at the heir apparent, Mr. Brainless II, Carmine Lupertazzi.
The fundamental question is, will I be as effective as a boss like my dad was? And I will be. Even more so, but until I am, it's going to be hard to verify that I think I'll be more effective.
Carmine Lupertazzi Jr., known as Little Carmine, is the son of Carmine Sr., the boss of the Lupertazzi crime family that bears his name. Despite being a capo in the family, Little Carmine is removed from New York affairs and lives in Miami, where he owns disco clubs.
And we all assume to be Johnny, because the son's down in Miami at the discos and whatnot.
Fixes wet t-shirt contests.
That fucking Little Carmine. And after what? 5 years in Florida fixing wet t-shirt contests.
And, let's say manages a tasteful art company.
Point is, I talked to Little Carmine, and he's interested in developing it through his company.
He does porn.
He's first introduced in the season 4 episode Calling All Cars, when Tony goes down to Florida and asks him to help resolve the HUD dispute with his father. Though Little Carmine agrees to try and convince his father to be reasonable, when Carmine Sr. begins showing more praise for Tony than him, Little Carmine intentionally fans the flames of the conflict out of jealousy. The next time we see Little Carmine is in the 5th season, when his father dies from a stroke. Though initially on good terms with Johnny Sack, a conflict emerges between the two as they both vie for the title of boss. Johnny is supported by the newly released Shah of Iran, while Little Carmine is backed by his father's former consigliere, Angelo Gareppi, and respected capo Rusty Milio. However, Rusty is only using Little Carmine as a puppet to try to run the family through. The conflict gets bloody when Johnny whacks Lorraine Caluso, a bookie who supports Little Carmine. As a side note, Little Carmine had a sexual relationship with her, despite the fact that they're second cousins, which is a little gross.
And what kind of a man bangs his second cousin?
What are you, the friggin' cardinal?
In retaliation, Little Carmine has Johnny's favorite associate, Joey Peeps, killed. Tony's cousin, Tony Blundetto, does the hit, which drags New Jersey into the conflict. However, when Johnny has Angelo killed, Little Carmine decides to back down and acknowledges John as the new boss of the Lupertazzi family.
Little Carmine's out.
He's dead?
Seems like him and Johnny worked out a deal.
I knew he'd cave. He's a fucking pussy, that kid.
Johnny doesn't get to enjoy the title for long though, as he's soon indicted on racketeering charges. While he's in jail and Phil serves as acting boss, Little Carmine chooses to avoid mob politics and instead partners with Christopher to fund his Cleaver movie. The movie ends up being a success, and another picture he can add under his subspecies. After Johnny dies in prison from lung cancer, the title of boss is again up for grabs. When it appears that Doc Santoro will emerge as the winner, Tony meets with Little Carmine and asks him to take charge instead. However, little Carmine declines, realizing that being boss won't bring him or his family any happiness. Phil eventually emerges as a new boss of the family, and his resentment of Tony brings the two sides to the brink of war. Little Carmine tries to broker a peace between the two, but he mucks it up and a war is started anyway. Though devastating for the New Jersey crew, the war drives a wedge between Phil and his right-hand man Butchie. In the series finale, Tony is able to negotiate a peace with little Carmine's help that ends in Phil's death. He also gives AJ a job at his movie production company that keeps him from enlisting in the military. Like I mentioned, little Carmine's defining characteristic is his low intelligence. He's viewed as an idiot by his fellow mobsters.
Little Carmine. It's common knowledge the guy's retarded.
Much of this is due to his malapropisms, where he uses a big word to sound smart, but ends up misusing the word to comedic effect.
Glad you caught that, Alexandra. Very observant. The sacred and the profane.
However, if we look deeper than the surface, we can see that Carmine is smarter than people give him credit for. For one thing, he's one of the few people empathetic enough to be considerate of Christopher's alcohol Jersey. Even HBO's website lists him as someone who shouldn't be overlooked. But the strongest case for his intelligence is the fact that he was able to walk away from the game. Throughout the series, we see how much pain the Crown has caused Tony. With all the conflict he has to deal with, and the fact that he's now the prime target for the FBI, Tony becomes increasingly angry and depressed with each season.
He's got the world by the balls and he acts like everything's a big fucking imposition.
Being at the top, he's isolated himself.
Yeah, it's just him and his money.
Unlike Tony, little Carmine is able to realize that the power just isn't worth it. Even their meeting at the golf course shows how different they are. When the scene opens, Tony is gambling, both literally with his fortune and figuratively with his life by being boss. He's so stressed and miserable, he orders something unhealthy to bring a little joy to his life.
Philly cheesesteak.
However, little Carmine is eating healthy and being active by playing golf. It's great foreshadowing to who's going to live longer. The dream he has about his father also shows some surprisingly great insight from the character. The paper crown his father wears represents how meaningless the title of boss really is, and the empty mellifluous box symbolizes that despite the outward benefits, he would have nothing even if he got the title.
That dream with my father, the empty box, wasn't about being boss. It's about being happy.
In the end, little Carmine ends up as one of the few happy characters on the show, able to enjoy his life with his loving wife and kids, with no fear of ending up dead or in prison. That's enough for anyone to call him a genius. But his intelligence might go even deeper than that. What if little Carmine didn't actually give up on being boss? What if instead he was manipulating events to turn out exactly how he planned them, and in the end, he's the one secretly controlling both New York and New Jersey? The theory goes that little Carmine was intentionally creating conflict between Phil and Tony. In the meeting of minds, he brings up Phil's brother right as they're about to agree to a peace deal, which sends Phil into a rage and blows up the deal.
Your brother Billy, whatever happened there?
All right, then.
Whatever happened there?
The shooting.
Whatever happened there?
God rest his soul.
This is usually viewed as another screw-up, but what if he intentionally did it to set Phil and Tony on a course for war? We know that he is capable of manipulating emotions on purpose. When he meets with his father and Johnny on the golf course, he intentionally inflames his father against Tony.
He likes to talk, I don't know.
What? What did he say?
His turf, his appraisal. Son of a bitch.
Now, the reason he does it in this case is because he was simply jealous of his father praising Tony, but even still, it's established that he is capable of emotional manipulation. Now the question is, why would he want to create a war between Phil and Tony? What would he have to gain, especially since he had a chance to become boss, but turned it down? Well, maybe he learned from his fight with Johnny Sack that having the title of boss was dangerous, and instead decided to run things from the shadows. After all, that's what his mentor Rusty did with him.
Jesus, Rusty?
John's worried he might find another puppet like little Carmine. try to run the family through him.
But if he was following Rusty, he would need a puppet to manipulate. Phil is obviously not going to be it, since he supported Johnny, which may be why he had to be eliminated, hence the war. The war also had the benefit of separating Butchie from Phil, and Butchie is the most likely candidate to take over after Phil's death. He would make a great puppet to rule the family through, and during the final meeting, Butchie looks at Little Carmine before agreeing to Tony's terms, which perhaps shows that he does take orders from him. However, there is a lot of contradictory evidence as well. If he wanted a war between New York and New Jersey, why did he try and mediate after Tony attacked Coco? You could say that he's trying to appear neutral, but that sounds more like mental gymnastics to make the theory fit. Also, how do we explain that he acts stupid even when he's not engaged in mob business? So, as fun as this theory is, it's unlikely that Little Carmine is secretly a 5D chess master playing with people's lives. No, the more realistic answer is that Little Carmine is what he appears, a pawn that realized that the only way to win the game is not to play. Thank you so much for watching the video, and especially thank you to everyone who's subscribed to me. I just hit 1,000 subscribers, which is an incredible milestone. When I started this channel last year, I never thought my videos would appeal to so many people. You all are awesome, and I plan to continue to make great content that I hope you'll enjoy. Thank you.